Awesome, and welcome to this week's session. This is Building Brighter Futures, looking at work. We're a 6-week course. So last week was our first week, how to do effective job searching, and what we covered was looking at what your values were, what your work interests were, what your barriers, what your strengths were, and then looking towards where you apply for work, which different websites are really good, volunteering if you're at school, how to make that work for you, and also looking at apprenticeships. If going to A levels or going to university isn't what you're after, maybe doing an apprenticeship could be working for you. So that's just a quick recap of what we did last week. Again, you don't need to have looked at last week to get this week, but that's a bit of background last week if you want to go back and have a little look at that. So this week we're looking at CV and cover letters. So this is just going to be some general basics. I do believe that at Cystic Fibrosis Trust they have a CV service where someone will look over your CV and give you tips and advice on how it's written. So I'm hopefully not going to cover too much of what they would do, but this is again something you can watch, look back on. If you've got any questions about CV and cover letters, we're also going to do a little bit, just a very little bit, application forms, which will be super useful. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll also be looking at interview preparation part 1, interview preparation part 2, your first job, your rights, reasonable adjustments in the law, and your first job, do's and don'ts, managing your social media accounts, and other such things like that. So, cracking on, looking at today's session. So first we'll start off with CV, the basics. We'll look at some CV do's and don'ts, and then we'll have a little quick break, and then we'll look at cover letters. Again, looking at the basics, some do's and don'ts, quick look at some application forms, have a quick look at some action verbs, and a quick question and summary. So, without further ado, hello there, it's nice. I hope you're having a lovely time. Just give you a quick introduction to who I am. I'm Daryl. I've got a background in HR. I've worked for various companies like advertising and in hotel industry. And yeah, I am going to be your personal guide through here. Think of me as your Gandalf, as it were, of helping you get prepared for work. So before we start, so like I said, this is part 2 of 6 sessions. So again, think about what you want out of these when you're watching them. Again, these you can look back and you get a lot out of it, but again, you've also got to be thinking about what you want and sort of thinking about where you'll want to go with the job search. Have you already got a CV? Is that something you've already worked on? Have you ever written a cover letter? And again, what do you want to get out of today's session? So let's crack on with CV, the basics. I love that picture. So, do you have the necessary qualifications? So, first off, what do you think has to go into the basics of a CV? So, first of all, pretty obvious, you're going to need your contact details. So when you're applying for jobs, your CV is the ultimate selling tool. If you want to be selected for an interview, this is your opportunity to showcase your skills and experience. It can be challenging to get through the first hurdle, as employers hiring often receive hundreds of applications for each job ad. So have this in mind when you're preparing your CV, as you'll need to be both succinct and relevant to get their attention. So for example, often when I can receive up to 200 job applications for one job opening. So as you can imagine, I need to whittle this down to five or 6 to hand over to a manager, who again might only select 3 or 4 to actually interview. So you really need to be able to display your key relevant information in most eye-catching ways possible, because again, if you've got to stand out amongst 200 people, it can get pretty dicey. So first of all, one of the key things to have is obviously your contact information. Put your contact details first, so like recruiters or someone in HR or a hiring manager can easily find your email address or phone number, because let me tell you, it doesn't matter how good your CV is, unless someone can ring you back or email you saying, hi, I'd like you to come interview, it will be pretty pointless. Personal statement. Okay, so a personal statement, this is a short statement or a summary of your experience. You should include a little relevant information about your skills in relation to the job ad. So for example, if on the job ad it says, I need, has to have great communication skills, or has to have excellent time management, just put something in your personal statement that says, I have excellent time management skills. For example, I have managed X, Y, and Z. It should be tailored to the role rather than a general statement, such as I'm a results-driven professional with excellent communication skills. So this is something that you might change job to job. I will talk a bit about this later, but although you'll have a CV, you should tailor each CV to each job application. So you'll have a draft that you can edit as you go. Next up is your career history. So when it comes to listing out your career history, you should start with your most recent job or work experience or voluntary placement, and then work your way back. So all the dates should match up. This is something a hiring manager or a recruiter will look for. If there are gaps, make sure you can explain them. For example, if you've gone to university and then you've taken a year's gap year, just put in, like 2018 on a gap year. Just give a brief summary of what you've done. Like I've been traveling the world, I've experienced X, Y, and Z, or I have worked in this job and that job, etc., etc. Just make sure if there are any gaps, you can explain it. Right, remember to write about more than just one duty or responsibility held in each role, and include any key achievements along with figures and statistics if you can. This just shows how you added value to the company and that you're really results focused. So for example, what you might do if you've done volunteering, or for example, say you've been volunteering at your local charity shop, you could say, right, I've had responsibility of cataloguing new inventory. So that would be a responsibility of where you're managing, and also you've got data skills and organizational skills, etc., etc., etc. So again, and you could just list, for example, cataloging inventory, managing the till, managing closing up the shop, etc. Just list all the different duties that you have and explain how they've helped. Next up, we have qualifications, training, and education. So what you'll do is you'll list obviously this is pretty self-explanatory, list your education, for example, your school, college, or university, or any relevant training you've had. So for example, you could list, I went to the Xavier School for Gifted Children from 2015 to 2018, and I got 9 GCSEs, A to C. And again, that's important to have because for example, when you're starting off a career, they want to see what training qualifications you have. As you move through your career, you might have very additional qualifications. Like for example, if you're working in IT, you might have I'm a level proficiency with like Mac or Excel or Word, etc. So we're now going to start to look at how we can lay out some CVs. But like I said, all CVs should have this basic information. You need to be got in contact with, have a little personal statement, have your career history, whether this includes, your Saturday job, volunteering, or anything else, and then just put your education down. Now, if you're looking for a Saturday job and you're creating a CV and you obviously don't have GCSEs or a qualification yet, you can always put your predicted grades down, or any sort of exams you have taken so far. That's okay, just so you can see it highlighted where you are. So another thing I will also mention is, you can move these around. So when we look at example is almost up stylistically up to how you want to lay out your CV. So you might, for example, you might want to put your education before your career history. So that is personal choice, up to you. So let's have a little look at this CV. Now, if I was to say to you, what's good about this CV and what would you improve upon it? So just have a little think about what you do differently, or actually, is there nothing you would change? So,
shall I? Sorry.
Oh, you can do. I was just throwing that out there.
Oh, right. Okay. I was gonna say, like, just that maybe, I don't know if it works. Like, if I respond, and then maybe you can have a conversation off the back of it. But would that be too? Would it just make more sense for you to?
You can respond if you want, but if not, I'm throwing out food for thought at this stage.
Okay, you go for it. Ignore me.
You go for it, Baha. What do you notice about this CV?
What I was going to say was, I don't know whether a photo is necessary.
That, absolutely. Fantastic.
Sorry, this is also for my benefit. And, there's no, I suppose there's contact details, which is fine. Can't.
Yeah.
I can't really see anything else.
No.
You go for it.
Great. That you have literally caught my first point, which is great. So photos. Some people put their photo on a CV. Personally, I don't think they're needed. If you really do feel you need to put a photo, make sure it is a professional photo. Don't be putting a selfie on there. Definitely. And if you think you've gone out to a nice party and you've got a nice photo of you dressed up, yeah, it doesn't matter. A picture of you in your party outfit holding a glass of champagne is still not work appropriate. If you're still not sure, again, best to leave the photo off, to be honest. But again, if you've got a professional headshot and you want to put it on your CV, then go for it. But that's my advice. So again, we've got at the top, we've got our contact information. Again, very key. If you want people to reply to you, definitely put your email on there. Here we've got a quick summary. Again, like I said, it's just a short personal statement, just really encapsulating your skills, make it relevant to the job you're applying for. Again, it's to get the attention of the hiring manager so they can straight away, if they're looking at a job spec or a job advert and they're looking for, right, I need someone with good communication skills, or for example, like has risk management strategy experience, etc., put it in your summary or personal statement so it just catches their eye immediately, and then they'll be, because that will be what they're looking out for. Next up, we've got their experience, again, the work history, starting with the most recent, and then you moving, so most recent down to least recent. And last but not least, we have education down here. Now, as I mentioned before, it's up to you if you want to put your education up here to begin with, especially as you're starting out. Of course, you're at school, that is your main experience. But personally, I always put my education at the bottom. I like putting, my work experience first, because that is what's most relevant. Even if you're doing voluntary work, Saturday job work, that is showing how you're, what you've learned and applying it, etc. So that is personally what I would do, but again, that is up to you. So we're now going to move on to some CV do's and don'ts. So before we carry on, is there any, Baha, feel free to chip in, but what would you say are your CV do's? What do you think must go on a CV, or you should do for a CV? Don't worry.
I don't know. You go.
So these are just some key ones. So try to keep it to 2 pages. Now, I will be honest, I'm notorious for this. My CV at the moment is running towards 5 to 6 pages. It is far too long. It should be definitely more concise than that. So always try and keep your CV to 2 pages. If you can keep it to 1 page, even better. As you might have seen in the example before, bullet point, okay? Mainly because For example, someone like me, if you're looking at 200 CVs, looking at big paragraphs of information is an absolute nightmare. What you want to do is get the information across as concisely as you can and as succinctly, so bullet points are essential. Divide your CV sections clearly. This is fairly straightforward. Again, it makes it, you don't want a messy CV. Again, if a hiring manager is glancing at a CV, it needs to be set out in such a way that they can easily get the information as fast as they can. So if it's clearly headed, like this is my work experience, and I've worked at Cystic Fibrosis Trust, and it's bullet pointed what my job responsibilities are, then that is a lot easier to read than not being not having clear sections, not being bullet pointed. Big messy paragraphs are not good. Make CV page transitions look tidy. We're going to look at this, an example of this in a minute, but to show you what you mean. But this is just a stylistic thing. It's just making sure that your CV looks, again, easy, presentable, and all the information is grouped together. But I'll look at this more closely later to show you an example. Name your CV file properly. I cannot stress how important enough this is. A CV is a professional document, and the file name will be seen when it's attached to emails, or if you're sending it via email or uploading it to a website. So if I receive an email application with a CV that has a messy name like 0241 final draft Daryl Baker, I'm going to think, what is this person doing? To me, that says a candidate is sloppy, they haven't taken the time to name the file properly, and it's just not a good start to your application or the impression you're making. When you're applying for jobs, the impression doesn't start when they open the CV. It starts from the second you make contact with them, whether that's an email, a cover letter, and that includes things, like I said, like how you name your CV, how you come across, how you format your email to a hiring manager is really important. For example, I once received an email from someone saying, "Hi, I would like to apply for an internship." They attached their CV, but you could tell where they had copied and pasted different paragraphs and just like deleted like the company's name and replaced it with someone else, because they hadn't formatted the email, so it was all in different sizes of fonts. So the first paragraph was like a font 12, the second paragraph was like font 9, and so again it just comes across as sloppy. It's very easy to do select all and make sure everything is looking neat and tidy. So name your CV file properly. It's quite easily done, and again, makes a good impression. Okay, so let's have a quick look at some don'ts. So don't list your actual references, just put references on request. It's just neat, it's tidy, and also it's just the done thing. Don't put your previous salary. So don't be I was on 420 grand. Again, it's not etiquette, it's not needed. They will hiring managers will at some point ask you for your previous salary, and you can confirm it then, like in an interview. Don't put your reasons for leaving. Don't, because you can. We'll look at this a bit more in week 3 on how to answer this sort of question. But don't say I left McDonald's because they weren't giving me enough hash browns. Like you don't need to put it on there. Leave it off. Just focus on what your duties were, what your key experience was, your key responsibilities. Focus on the job, not why you've left. And again, I mentioned this before, don't put a selfie on your CV. Super important. It doesn't make a great impression. Doesn't matter how great your cheekbones are looking, it's not professional. So just avoid that temptation. Okay, and last but not least, we've got don't leave dead space on a CV. So we'll look at some examples to show you what this means. It just means don't leave great big huge chunks of blank space. Just make sure you move your CV around and adjust margins and make sure it fills a page. But I'll show you an example of this just so you know what I mean and so it makes sense. So moving on. So this is an example of what I meant via bullet points versus messy paragraphs. Here you can look, it's a big chunk. It might be absolutely correct and elegant, but again, you've got to be thinking on your CV and applications and cover letters is you need to grab the attention of the hiring manager. And I can tell you now that I do not want to be reading huge paragraphs of information. What I need to do is be able to see clearly and quickly sort of, do you have the experience I'm looking for? So this, although I'm sure is very lovely written, what you need is something quick and easy like this. It just is a lot easier in your eyes. It's a lot easier for you as well to demonstrate why you're good for the job. Okay, let's have another look at a CV. Again, so here you can see name at the top, contact information, all in one line, quick summary. Now this person's got a highlight section, and again, they've got their experience from most recent to less recent. Again, you can what I mentioned earlier about having really clear titles and separate sections. You can see here they've got the summary. It's very clear. This is the summary. The title is here, sectioned off. This is my highlights. This is my experience. And again, where it's bullet pointed, it just makes it more succinct, easier to read, and actually, with the way it's laid out, is very clear. Again, I know what year they started, I can see their title, I know what company, I know where they were based. So again, keep it clear, keep it simple. You want to be able to draw someone's attention in. If it's messy or badly laid out, again, it's just going to look like you're sloppy and you've not put any work in your CV and no one's going to look at it. So let's have a quick look at what I mean by wasted space. So what I mean by wasted space is, so what I would suggest if you're doing your CV is, if you have access to it, do it in Word. Because most companies will have Word, will have access to Word, and will be able to view it. But I would also always save your CV as a PDF. Again, most companies will be able to open up a PDF, and also what's really great about PDF is it means that if you've adjusted all your margins or anything, it means that your formatting isn't going to change. So, and what, for example, by that I mean, if you've adjusted all your rulers and margins, if you save it as a PDF, again, that's not an edited document. It's not going to shift, and it's not going to look weird if they have a different program to what you've written it in. So, what I mean by dead space is remove this, like big spaces. So in Word, I know the ruler margins usually start about here, and if you can see here, they're usually in like this. So you can always end up with big empty space like this. Now this is bad again for several reasons, because when a hiring manager opens up your CV, you need to get as much information to them as quickly as possible. And what this does is, having all this dead space just pushes everything down, so you're not seeing as much. So if we look here, by removing that and moving that dead space and moving everything up, you get to see a bit more of your content, a bit more of your employment, your core skills, and that's really good. So if I'm opening that up, I can, of course, seen the profile, I've seen the first line of the employment history. It's neater, and it looks a lot better. I've also just included here, in case anyone doesn't know, on how to get rid of your ruler margins. You just click on View in Word, click on the ruler, and then what you can do is, there's just little things here, these little arrows, and you can just slide them across and slide them up, and that moves everything upwards. So that is how you can get rid of a lot of that dead space, is by removing the margins. So as you can see, this is a lot neater. You can see more of the employment history. And again, if you're trying to keep your CV to 2 pages, you don't want any dead space, because you need to get a lot of information into those pages. So Why waste it? Why waste it? Keep it all nice and neat. Next up, so we mentioned on the CV basics, obviously it's really, really important to have your contact details on there. However, sometimes there is too much of a good thing. And by that I mean you don't need to list every work number you've got. You definitely don't need to put your date of birth on there. Oh, sorry about that. There are several reasons why you might not want to put your date of birth on a CV. One is ageism. You don't want, it's very, it's one of those things we'll talk about later, but you don't want someone to see your birthday and either dismiss you because you're too young or too old or whatever. And you know what? That's personal information. It doesn't need to be on the CV. So as you can see here, there's quite a lot of information, and what that also does is it's created, again, more of this sort of blank space. So don't feel like you need to list all this out. All you need is your location. You don't, or for example, I want to work in Birmingham or Kent or London. Just put your telephone number, so obviously they can ring you and get in touch with you. Most people have a mobile, but if you want to put your home phone number, put that there, and then your email address. Again, most recruiters are going to be emailing you to organise interviews. And again, by minimising this, instead of having all this lots of information here, again, you can move everything up. It's more visible when you're opening your CV and has all that information there. You could put in your home address. Home address can be really good, but again, people will ask for your address if they need to send you anything. The most key information when it comes to your contact information is your telephone number and your email, because again, that is how they're going to get in touch with you. Okay, so we mentioned earlier something called CV page transitions and keeping them tidy. So what I mean by this is when you're going from one page to the next page, is making sure that nothing is split. So for example, if you've got I'm working as a big store general assistant, don't split the responsibilities or the outline. You want to keep that onto one page. And this is purely stylistic. It just looks nicer. It's easier when you're looking at CVs that you don't have to flip between pages to look at the responsibilities. So for example, again, all you have to do is enter in a page break. And again, a page break is really, really easy. I believe it's on view, page break. So yeah, super easy to do. And again, it just makes it a lot neater. When you're looking at CV, you don't have to flip between pages. Oh, sorry guys. And again, it's just nice having all that information. It's more clean, it's more professional, and it's just little things like that that can really push your CV above other people. Okay, so again, this is just another example of a CV. I'm just going to quickly look at. Now we've gone through a lot of do's and don'ts. Again, if you're watching this later, just have a quick look, have a quick think about what you think is good, what works, what doesn't work. So again, this person's got all their contact details on one line. It's super clear, it's super easy to read. They've just got their address, telephone number, mobile, email address. They've got their personal profile at the top here, a few lines. Again, like I said earlier, where you put your academic qualifications and then your work experience is up to you. This guy has decided to put it up front, and that's completely fine. So this guy's got a degree, he's got a certificate in financial planning, and then he's listed his A-levels. Oh, sorry guys. Here we've got work experience. So again, he's got where he works, if it was putting it as part-time, a little summary of what he did and a list of his duties. So for example, he's squashed all this onto one page, which does look okay, but maybe you could think about moving it onto two. Here, I think it looks a little messy. I think it could be done with, again, bullet points. Again, if it was on one page, I think it would look a bit neater, because, it can be a bit jarring the way you'll read, because obviously we read from left to right, so it's a bit jarring having everything on the right. But again, that's stylistic. That's what I'm thinking when I'm reading it. If it makes it harder for me to read Is that okay? Again, you've got to keep thinking what makes it easier for the hiring manager. You want to keep them people happy because they're the ones who are going to be putting your CV in front of, people and asking you to interview. Again, he's got his voluntary experience here, which is really good, but again, could be done with a few bullet points. And then he's listed out some personal skills, nice and bullet pointed. And again, as we mentioned earlier, he's just said references available on request. And he's also got a bit of personal information. He's got a driving license, his nationality, and languages that he speaks. Again, if you speak different languages or have any extra skills, absolutely fantastic. Put them on there, list them out. Again, it pushes you in front of other people. Anything like that is really, really great to have on your CV. So again, have a little look, have a little think, and see what you would change and what you wouldn't change. So, cover letter, the basics. I hope everyone is enjoying my memes as much as I am, because personally I think they're hilarious. If not, they're just for me. Right, so cover letter, the basics. So a cover letter or a cover email. So for example, a cover letter is something you might attach with a CV, or you might just do like a covering email when you're attaching your CV. But a cover letter or email is about marketing you and your skills. So just like your CV, you will need to amend each cover letter for each job application you make to make sure that it suits that particular employer. Like I said with your CV, you almost want to keep like a draft copy saved to your computer so you can adapt it each time you apply for a job. So the basics. Before I crack on, have a little think. What do you think needs to be covered in a cover letter? What do you think the basics are when you're writing one? What do you think has to be on there? Super important. Well, the first one is, who is recruiting you? So find out the name of the recruiter and address for your cover letter or email to them. It makes your application look more personal and shows that you've used your initiative. If it's not available, just use dear sir or madam. To whom it may concern is always a good one. But again, just put that little personal touch can make a huge difference and set you out from the other hundreds of people that might be applying for that job. Keep your cover letter short. You do not need to write an essay about your skills and how much you want the job. You just need to keep it short and to the point. It should be no longer than an A4 page or a couple of paragraphs in an email. You do not need to be writing your life story, your history. You do not need to detail every single thing you've done since birth. It needs to be highlighting those key things that they're looking for to show that actually that you are the perfect candidate for them, and they need read no more CVs or cover letters, that you're the person they're looking for. What to include? So we'll go into this in a bit more detail, but this is your chance to highlight your key skills, your experience, or your qualifications that are relevant to that particular job. Explain why you want to work for that company and what you can bring to the role. Expand on any sort of relevant projects that are not already on your CV. So you don't want to just rehash your CV in a cover letter. What you want to be able to do is really highlight things that, again, that are really relevant to that job. It's again a great opportunity to say why you want to work for that particular company. Again, if you can do something really exciting, sort of say like, actually, I'm really passionate about working for Apple. I care a lot about your products, etc., etc., etc. It makes you stand out from other people. Again, if you don't put that effort in, it can make such a huge difference. Outline your availability. If you're going to be out away or out of reach for some time, let the hiring manager know. It's frustrating if you're super, super busy and you can't get hold of someone. So if you've applied for a Saturday job and then you're going on your summer holidays for 2 weeks, or if you're in the middle of like your GCSEs and actually, you know what, you're not going to be answering your phone for a few weeks while you do them, just let them know, out of contact from this date to this date. I look forward to hearing you from when I'm home. Again, it means that they'll get in touch with you when you're available, and if you're unavailable and they're getting in touch, then it stops them from you missing out on an opportunity because they're thinking that you're just not replying to them, whereas you might legitimately just not be in the country picking up their calls. End on a high. So end your letter with a positive, expressing your willingness to discuss your application at the interview. Highlight that you will call them to follow up in a few days. Remember to include your contact details in case you know if that's not on your CV or etc. It should be on there, as we've mentioned. Put your contact details on there. Super important. But again, ending on a little positive, a little personal, saying we'll keep being in touch. Again, it just rounds off the letter really nicely. It's a really good way to keep them fresh in your mind, as I'm sure that you'll have been taught throughout your English literature or your English language, lessons. Always end on a good summary, a good conclusion, end on a positive, make it memorable, because that is the lasting impression someone's going to have on you. And finally, the final checks. Review your spelling and grammar. My gosh, especially someone like me, I'm dyslexic. I make spelling mistakes all the time. So if I don't triple, double check what I'm sending before I send it, I dread to think some of the spelling errors that that would be sent. There can be some real disastrous ones as well. So just be careful. Just double check it. Make sure the grammar's on point. You've not got exclamation points or full stops all over the place when they're not supposed to be. If you're applying online and there's no chance of adding a covering email, and you can make your covering letter the final page of your CV, it's all included in one document. So you can personalize the letter and title, like covering letter for X company. So that's just something to keep in mind. So often if you're applying to a website, it's just upload a CV, just add your covering letter at the end or at the beginning of your CV, just make it one big document. And again, that's just it's a good thing to do and have. So there's a little tip there. So these are the basics for a CV. Who are you addressing it to? If you see your biography, your memoir of your life, what to include, again, relevant information. Don't just rehash your CV, just highlight relevant projects. Include something about the company, show that you've researched it, that you're keen to work there. Again, it sets you out above the rest, but end that letter on a high. Look forward to talking to you soon. I'll be in touch in a few days to discuss my CV. And then just double, triple check what you've written. You've not put any colossus, embarrassing spelling mistakes. Your grammar's okay. As I've said before, if you're applying to lots of different companies, it's really easy to accidentally leave a different company's name in a covering letter. I've had that. I'll be working at, let's say I worked at Sainsbury's and someone sent me a cover letter with, I want to work at Asda because they're super fantastic and etc. It's like, Again, it comes across as sloppy. It's something that's easily rectified. So just double, triple check what you're sending.
Can I say one thing?
Please do.
Yeah, just so you might want to add as well. You might want to add, but you know what I mean. One thing that I often do, one thing that's really helped me, is getting a friend or someone who I trust to proofread my stuff.
Absolutely.
So that might be just a good little tip as well. Sorry, I'm going to let you carry on. I'm going to stop.
No, absolutely. No, always chip in. Absolutely. Again, I have my friends check over my CV all the time. That's great advice. Always have someone check over it, whether it's a parent, a teacher, or your friends. If you're not sure, just triple, double check. Have someone look over what you've done, and you'll be amazed at what they can pick up on that you can miss if you don't double, triple check. So no, fantastic advice. When in doubt, ask your friends, and that's just good advice for everything in life in general, to be honest. So let's look at some cover letters, do's and don'ts. So have a quick think. What do you think is a big, you should, do when it comes to cover letters? Is there any big no-nos when it comes to cover letters that you can think of? So let's have a little look at the do's. Use simple language and uncomplicated sentence structure. Ruthlessly eliminate all unnecessary words. Make the writing as tight as possible. So this sort of ties in with what I was saying before about keep it succinct, keep it short. It shouldn't be, like I said, it shouldn't be a memoir. It shouldn't be, Obama's, history of his time in the White House. It is just a one-page document introducing who you are, why your skills are relevant, why you want to work for that company. So again, think of it as, you know, when you're writing essays for school, you got to chop out those words. You've got to keep it within a certain word count. It's exactly the same for your cover letter. Clear and simple. Don't overcomplicate it unless you have to. Speak to the requirements of the job, especially when responding to a job ad. So I'm going to look at an example later, but what a job ad will often have is, you know, a list of things that they require from someone who's applying for the role. So it could be clear communication, good management skills, etc., etc. So in your covering letter, you want to highlight those skills. Like, I'm a clear communicator because of X, Y, and Z. I have done A, B, and C, etc. So you're responding to that job ad. And again, why this is really important is because when a hiring manager is looking at a bunch of CVs or cover letters, they're looking for someone who has, you know, those key skills that are outlined in the job ad. So if you can, on your first page, your first paragraph, go, hi, I have these skills that you need, and I've given examples of where I've done it, they're going to think, right, great, perfect. They've got all the skills that I'm looking for. They're going to straight to the top of the pile of people that I want to interview. So again, really important that you're looking and reading any job adverts or job specs that are online. Make sure that that's what you're applying to, and then highlighting and making sure that your experience is demonstrating that you have those skills, because that is what's going to set you out from other people. Okay, do tell the employer how you can meet his or her needs and contribute to the company. So again, this is very similar to what I was saying before. You want to say about how your skills and, you know, how you can meet their needs and how you can contribute to the company. So again, it's about standing out and making sure that you're meeting what they need, and not just saying, oh, well, I've got clear communication, but also you want to say that, oh, you bring something extra. This is how actually I'm going to contribute to your company. This is what you need from me, but also what I'm going to bring to you. This one's really important. So distinguish your cover letter from those of other job seekers by quantifying and giving examples that amplify and prove the claims you make in the letter. So again, I sort of touched this above. So if you're looking for a job advert and it says, right, you've got clear communication, it's not enough for you to just in like a sentence go, I have clear communications and solid Excel skills, and I have experience in managing other people. That is just listing out what they've written out in the job ad. That isn't demonstrating that you have those skills. So what you need to do is you need to say, right, I have clear communication skills. For example, I have done debating at school, and I have often discussed important matters and led projects in a clear and effective manner, etc., etc., etc. So what you're doing is you're saying, yes, I have clear communication skills. This is an example of where I've used them, and this is the outcome of it. So I've got clear communication skills. I've done debating at school, and this has often led to me, you know, giving presentations and getting good feedback, and etc., etc., etc. So it's all about proving that you actually have those skills. It's not enough just to say, I have them. You have to be able to prove that you have them, if that makes sense. So always have examples for what you're saying. Last but not least, on the do avoid negativity. Negativity never has a place in a cover letter. So I hope this is a really obvious one, but in case it isn't, for example, say you're using a cover letter, like you might say, I want to work at Asda because I think it's a great place to work, and also Sainsbury's is rubbish. Like, you don't need to put it in. You don't need to put anything negative in. You need to solely focus on the positives. Another way you could be negative is saying, I've left my current job because it's really horrible and rubbish and I hate it, and they're always having to go at me because I'm late. That's not something you want to put in. Again, you need to always spin something to the positive, such as, I'm looking for a new job because I want to expand my skills. I hope that makes sense. Again, if you're worried that, if you're worried something starts to sound negative, think it through. Again, have a friend read it, and just double check. And like I said, remove anything negative. Just, again, focus on the positives and spin it if you can. Right, let's move on to some don'ts. Don't repeat your CV. Your cover letter should expand on your CV, not reiterate it. The hiring manager has your CV right in front of her or him. She doesn't need it restated in your cover letter. So don't just list things that are already in your CV, like core competencies, past positions held. Instead, expound on them by giving more information. Did you list an award on your CV? Spend a sentence talking about what you did to earn it. Did you spend a term in working in Haiti, doing earthquake relief? Talk about how your time there helped you develop skills. You can use this to talk about those skills and how you can use these to adequately perform in that position. Use your cover letter to give depth to the list of work experience you put on your CV, not simply to restate it. So this is sort of tied in what I was saying earlier. Again, it's not just repeating a job ad and saying, I've got communication skills. It's not just repeating your CV saying, well, I've worked here and I have done this. Your cover letter is an opportunity to go into the detail that you can't put on your CV, because otherwise it'll be 20 pages long. So if like I said, if you put, I got a special award at school, this is your opportunity to say, I got a special award for services to the school because I defeated the basilisk and got rid of it, and that's why I got an award, and that shows that I'm daring and brave. Again, this is your opportunity to really show off how good you are, and you've got to take the opportunity to expand rather than repeat. So don't send general covering letters. So again, I've touched on this before. Covering letters should be made specific to the company, so even inexperienced workers know to tailor their CVs for a specific job description, but you should also be tailoring your cover letter for the job as well. So don't make a common cover letter mistake of sending the same one to every job opening. Your cover letter shows even more personality and candor than your CV, so it should absolutely be tailored to fit the job description, and it should reflect the kind of attitude and general demeanour that fits the company and the company's culture. Again, this is sort of what I was saying earlier. You want to have like a draft cover letter that you can amend, because every job spec might be asking, one job spec might be asking for communication skills, so you might need to add a paragraph in highlighting your communication skills, whereas another job advert might be looking at your management skills, for example. So this is where it helps. So basically, your cover letter this is where it helps to do a little bit of research about the job, about the company, about the particular profession industry you're in, because this is where you're going to be able to show that off, because it's not something you put in your CV. So again, don't do yourself a disservice by just sending off like a one-size-fits-all cover letter. Spend that extra time putting the effort in, tailoring it. Is going to make you stand out, and that is what is going to get you a job interview and get you a job in general. Very important, you don't waste your first paragraph by saying boring. Make it interesting, catch their attention, because again, it's like when you introduce yourself, you don't want to bore people. You need to get their attention. Hi, this is me, this is why I'm awesome. And that's exactly the same with your cover letter. Grab their attention, keep them interested, because again, if someone's receiving 200 CVs and cover letters, they are skimming it. They don't want to be bored. You need to get to the point as quickly as you can to prove to them that actually they need to carry on reading your cover letter. They should read your CV. You should be put on top of this pile. You have a very, very short amount of time to get someone's attention. Don't waste it. Don't use cliches such as, enclosed, please find my CV. Employers can see that your CV is enclosed. They don't need you to tell them. Such trite phrases just waste precious space. Again, be succinct, be clear. Don't do nonsense. It's a general advice for life as well. Don't rehash your CV. again, I've mentioned this up there. Use your cover letter to highlight aspects of your CV that are relevant, position, don't waste precious space, the potential employer's time if you simply repeat your CV. Put it on there twice. It's really important. Don't do it. So, don't go overboard with I. If you ever see I think in your cover letter, strike it out. Obviously, you think you'd be a great addition to the team. If you didn't, you wouldn't be applying for the job, right? Your cover letter should introduce you and give some insight into your personality through your words, which are more informative and inflective than they are on your CV. Using I to start too many thoughts shows that you're more interested in talking about yourself than how you can influence the job that they can fill. So be very careful with your language when you're writing your cover letter. Okay, let's have a little quick look at an example. So I've just pulled this off of Sainsbury's website. This is a sort of part-time job as a sales assistant, I think. I've cut off the job title, so that was really useful. This is a full-time part job. So here is an example of what a job ad would look like. As you can see here, it says, you can be the heart and soul of Sainsbury's. Join our friendly team, and you're responsible for truly excellent customer experiences. Like all of us, you're passionate about always doing the right thing for customers. You take the pride in going above and beyond expectations to deliver the kind of bold and brilliant service that you can change the game in retail. Always ready to help customers and colleagues alike. You're happy to answer any query and keen to promote great ways for people to live well for less. In this very role, you'll bring a smile and a kind word to everything you do, whether it's taking payments or keeping things neat and tidy. You can be sure that your love of our customers will be properly rewarded and recognised. Right. Then it goes on to describe the role. Put simply, you'll make customers feel special. You'll help in all kinds of ways, from supporting customers to on the shop floor to serving them at the checkout. On the checkout, you'll promptly and politely process, pack, and take payment for shopping. On the shop floor, you'll help customers find what they want, explain anything they need to know, and help to make sure the products they love are always on the shelves. So then it lists out your experience and skills. Are you a good communicator, team player, friendly and polite and helpful? Customer service experience is a bonus, but not essential. Retail experience would be an advantage too, but it's your attitude that matters most. So, what's the first thing you think when you see this example? As I mentioned before, when you're looking at a job ad, it's this section you really need to focus on, it's almost that section that you're applying to in your cover letter and CV. So you need to demonstrate when you've been a good communicator. When have you been a team player? Are you friendly, polite, and helpful? Think of an example. Do you help little old ladies cross the street? Do you volunteer at a local hospital? Do you do anything where you're sort of demonstrating where, we've been polite and friendly and helpful? Customer service experience is a bonus but not essential. Again, if this is a really good job to take. You don't have to worry about having previous experience. It's about showing what experience you do have is beneficial. Again, it's sort of saying that your attitude works. So if you was going to be writing a cover letter, think of good examples where you've been a good communicator, and think of examples where you've been part of a team. So have a little crack at this at home. If you're watching this, how would you write down a few paragraphs on where you've been a good communicator and where you've been part of a team, and then start research Sainsbury's about why you'd want to be with them. It's just a really good way to practice writing a cover letter. So have a little think, take some time to look at that. Now, here's an example of a cover letter that I've written up. There are good things and bad things in this, cover letter. It's not perfect. So we'll just have a little read, and then I want you to think about the things that you could change, or what you'd add, or what works really well, or what doesn't work. Dear hiring manager, it is with great enthusiasm that I submit my application for the position of sales coordinator for the Westeros Castle project. As an administrative professional with over 10 years experience, I know my diverse skills and qualifications will make me an asset to the Westeros project team. As you will see from the attached CV, I've built my career in a variety of roles and industries, mostly in small companies where I was not just the admin, but also gatekeeper, technology whiz, bookkeeper, and marketing guru. I'm not only used to wearing many hats, I sincerely enjoy it. I thrive in an environment where no 2 work days are exactly the same. In addition to being flexible and responsive, I'm also a fanatic for details, particularly when it comes to presentation. One of my recent projects involved coordinating a 200-page grant proposal. I proofed and edited the narratives provided by the division head, formatted spreadsheets, and generally made sure every line was letter perfect and that the entire finished product conformed to the specific guidelines of the RFP. The result, a 5-year, £1.5 million grant award. I believe in applying this same level of attention to detail to tasks as visible as prepping the materials for a top-level meeting, as mundane as making sure the copier never runs out of paper. Last but certainly not least, I want you to know that I'm a passionate Westeros fan and a long-time supporter of the Newcastle. I've been following the Newcastle movement since the earliest days of the original Save the Tombs campaign, and I'm so excited to see the vision becoming a reality. I've already checked out the Newcastle website, and the renderings of the new throne and Great Hall are stunning to say the least. I particularly love the vintage murals and art featured throughout the building. In closing, I'm thrilled at the possibility of being involved in the Newcastle, almost literally from the ground up, and would love the opportunity to meet you and discuss the value I can bring to the Targaryen organisation and the Westeros Castle project. I appreciate your consideration and look forward to hearing from you. Warmest regards, Caitlin Stark. So, let's have a little look at this. So let's look at some of the good points. If we if we look here, when Caitlin has said that I'm a fanatic for details, she's backed that up by an example. So she's talked about a recent project, this proposal, how she proofed and edited it, formatted spreadsheets, etc., proving that she's attention for details, and also the result. And this is what she got out of it, this brilliant grant. And also, again, another way of standing out is not only she backed up what she's saying about the fantastic details, she's then linked it back saying why this makes her good for the company. So, hi, you've wanted someone who's attention to details. This is an example of where I've been very attention to details, and this is the result of that. And actually, this is what I then bring to your company. This level of details is what you need to make sure that, I'm ready and this is what you need at every level. So that's an example of how this is, quite good. It's got quite a catchy opening paragraph. Again, it's not boring. It's, I'm really enthusiastic. I'm applying for this role. I'm an administrative professional with over 10 years experience. That's a second sentence. Again, if you're looking for someone with, with experience or, or a great communicator, for example, or anything, any other wide range, again, get it in that first paragraph, in that second sentence, grabs the attention. So things that could be maybe improved. We mentioned avoid cliches. As you'll see from the attached CV, we know you've attached your CV. So that could go, you could just go straight into, I've built my career in a variety of roles and industries, etc. Another good point about this is that it ends on that positive. As we mentioned earlier, I look forward to being in touch with you. I look forward to hearing from you. Can't wait to discuss what I can bring to your organisation. Another great thing to talk about is Caitlin's made it very clear that she's researched this company. So first, she's got an opening paragraph that's really catchy, talks about some of her skills, gives an in-depth example of, you're looking for attention to detail. This is where I can give that. How am I a clear communicator? How am I a team player? That's where you sort of answer those questions in the meat, the real chunk, the core of your cover letter. Show that you've researched the company, a paragraph on what you like, that you've looked at, demonstrate that you've looked at the website and that you've taken that time. It just shows that you go above and beyond what is asked for. And again, that is a really key thing to do, show that you're willing to go above and beyond. And then last but not least, it ends on a positive. So again, as we said earlier, that is how you should always close off your cover letters. Okay, so moving on from cover letters, we're now going to be looking at application forms. So if you're looking for a retail job, for example, like that Sainsbury's one was was just a sort of a shop floor, just casual, Sainsbury's job. They had an online application, but most, if you're looking for retail, you could probably just go in and hand in your CV or your local, Clark's, Topshop, etc., etc. But you do end up, but if you're applying for other sorts of jobs, the online application, it will be an application form rather than just submitting your CV. And you can't, you can get away with copying and pasting your CV, but generally you will have to tailor what you're putting on your application form. Don't lie on your application form, because there'll be dragons. You don't want to end up exaggerating and then someone calling on you, going, "Oh, hey, are you really a dragon tamer?" And then you've got to explain that no, you're not. So, don't lie on your application form first and foremost. So, let's crack on. So, meet the organisation requirements. Some roles require certain grades or knowledge of particular computer programs. Make sure you have these before applying. Companies can quickly reject applications because you don't meet their specific requirements. If you have extenuating circumstances, highlight them somewhere else in the form. That's pretty straightforward. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't meet the basic requirements. If they ask if you're, do you have 5 GCSEs, 8 a star? If you don't have them, or if you don't highlight that, then they're not gonna answer you. So if you say you didn't have your 5 8 stars, but you had a BTEC or something else equivalent, you've got to put that as bold as possible, make it as clear. So actually, no, I don't have these grades you're looking for, but I do have this, and actually meets your requirements in this way. Do your research, find out about the business, what it can offer and what it's looking for. They will probably ask why you're applying, and it's important that you've considered what you want to gain from working with them. You can read up on skills needed to work there and include your experience of those in your application. This is just good advice for anything that you do when it comes to job applications. Always, always, always do thorough research. Like I said, whether it's looking on blogs, looking at their website, if it's looking at material they've produced. For example, if you're applying to go work at a national newspaper, read the newspaper. Always, always, always thoroughly research everything that you do. Be mindful of the language you use. Just because you're submitting an application online doesn't mean you should be careless when completing it. Check your language and don't use text speak or abbreviations when you're completing an application. It's amazing how often this can be done. Always check that your grammar is correct. It's very, it's easy when you're copying and pasting to mix things up, or when you're writing something to think, oh, I better go back and write that later, and just always be very mindful of what you're doing and what you're saying. And again, double, triple check everything. And like we said earlier with CVs and cover letters, if, to just be absolutely sure, get a friend, get a family member, get a teacher to look at it before you submit. Quality, not quantity. So like a hiring manager doesn't want to read pages and pages of answer. Keep your writing concise and clear with the important information first. Again, like I said, it's not about also, most people don't want to read pages and pages of stuff. You need to get it across as quickly and as simply as possible why you're qualified and why they should hire you. Okay. Make sure your information is correct, e.g. qualifications. So employers may ask for certain academic grades for the role. Take care to check your qualifications are correct and make sure you attach copies if required. Most companies will check your qualifications, so that is something you should definitely be aware of. Also, always, refresh it in your mind. This is something that even I have to do to this day. I won't tell a lie. It was a long time ago since I did my GCSE or A levels, and sometimes I forget what they are. So I always just refresh your memory, double check, and just make sure that everything you're putting on an application form is correct. No gaps on your application. So ensure there are no gaps on your application. If there are years missing from your application, such time between school and university, highlight these rather than leaving them blank. Employers will want to see like a full chronological history of your schooling through to university and beyond, and to your work experience. Just prepare to discuss any reasons why you've got gaps. So this is something that you won't necessarily have to think about, starting out, but this is certainly something to keep in mind as you go through your career. You could have gaps in your CV from any reason, from traveling to looking after a sick parent, or having a bad bout of sickness yourself, and that's fine. All you've got to do is make sure that you're prepared to answer it. If an employer says, oh, okay, why are you missing 3 months from 2018, just say, right, well, this is the time that my health wasn't particularly good, so I had to take 3 months out from working just to make sure that I was fully recovered and prepared to go back to work. Just always be prepared to answer those sort of questions if they crop up. For example, I've had a gap on my CV from looking after a sick parent. Again, it's easily explained. You don't have to go into personal information if you don't want to. You can keep it as, you don't have to tell them your life story. You don't have to tell them the gory details of why you had that gap there. It's just to be able to answer the question, like, oh, no, this gap is just for X reason. So, yeah, just so you know. Check content and spelling. Again, I've highlighted this, but again, it's always worth saying, always check your spelling and grammar. Online application forms often don't have spell checker, so you should write your answers in like Word beforehand. Microsoft Word's really good, but whatever sort of like word processing program you have is fine. Spell check and then paste your answers into an application form. And again, like I said, get a friend to read over it, get a family member to check it out, just so you're double covered. Again, answer the questions, not the questions you want to answer. Employers ask questions to discover whether you meet their requirements. However, it's surprising how many candidates don't answer the questions that are asked. If the question has 2 or 3 parts to it, answer each in turn to demonstrate you've read and understood them. Don't be like, give an example of where you're a team player. Don't think, well, you know what, here's an example, being a team member, individually, I've done X, Y, and Z. That's not what they're asking. They're asking to demonstrate how you've worked as a team. So don't look at a question and think, oh, well, I'd rather answer this. No, you have to answer the question in front of you. Because if you don't answer the question in front of you, an employer is just going to assume either A, you didn't understand it, or B, you've not read it correctly and you're sloppy. So always answer the question in front of you. Review before sending. Again, I'm repeating it, but I'm saying it again. Take one final look over your application form before submitting it. You only get one chance to make sure it's as good as it can be. Always, double check, triple check everything, because you don't want to be a silly spelling mistake or a silly error. Say you've pasted the wrong answer to the wrong question, that sort of thing. If you're proofreading your stuff in Word first, double, triple check that everything as it should be. Reread it. Don't skim read it. Reread the application. Take that extra 10, 15 minutes. Just make sure that it's a job well done. Otherwise, you're going to end up like President Trump. Okay. So, lastly, we're going to look at some action verbs. So these are just some, so it can be really hard when you're writing your cover letters and CVs, etc., because you always often find yourself repeating and using the same words. So the next couple of slides are just to show you some examples of different words you can use, and just to keep it varied, keep it fresh, also to make it more concise, just to help it stand out. So try and use action verbs when describing your skills and accomplishments in the CV or cover letter. This will maximise the effectiveness of your accomplishments and make potential employers take notice. Be sure to use verbs in their proper context. Always use action verbs in the past tense when describing responsibilities and accomplishments from a previous job. So, e.g., you've trained, led, and supervised a team of content editors in a development, structuring, writing of online classes. And always use action verbs in the present tense when describing responsibilities and accomplishments in a current job. So instead of trained, led, and supervised, you train, lead, and supervise a team of content editors in development, structuring, and writing of online classes. So the next like five slides or so is literally just how I've split out the action verbs is I've done it by like almost category. So the first set, we're looking at communication and people skills. So again, instead of saying, oh, I have good communication skills, you could say, I have developed really good interviewing skills, or I have interviewed someone or arranged to organize other people, etc., etc. So this is just again, you can't just substitute one word for another. You have to again make sure the context makes sense. But here are just some examples. If you get stuck, to inspire you, and sort of you can change up what you put on your cover letter or CV. Here we have some creative skills ones. So we've got like photographed, revitalized, planned, modeled, illustrated, drew, entertained. And again, there are some ones that like established, began, but again, it's words you can use and interchange to demonstrate those skills. These ones are sort of based around data and sort of financial skills. So you, for example, you forecast or you analysed, you administrated, balanced, etc., etc. These words are around helping skills. So volunteered, represented, motivated, demonstrated, etc., etc., etc. These ones are on management and leadership skills. Again, so some of these you'll see like repeated, like administrated, analysed, etc. But headed, generated, management, related. Hello. Hello.
Hey, I just wanted to quickly pause just to say hi to Sean because Sean's.
Oh, hi Sean. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Sorry, I forgot. I thought it was tomorrow. Forgot about the day. And,
that's okay.
I just checked my email and I saw it's today. I thought I'd pop in. How many?
Oh, hi Sean. It's good to hear you. I hope you've had a good day.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we're actually coming to the end of it, but because no one had turned up except for you now, what we've done is we've just Dee's just been going through the workshop and like presenting it, and I'm recording it so that it can be available to stream fairly soon online. So once after we finish this tonight. I'm gonna send off the recordings to our content team, and they'll put it together, make it look like like a nice shiny like presentation, and then that can be put on uploaded onto our youth page, so you can like have a look at it and like go back and like look at it and actually go like do the some of the some of the tasks and look at some of the examples online. So if you're happy to just kind of like sit and observe for the rest of the I think it's like 10 minutes or something.
Oh, yeah. Because we're literally at the end now, unfortunately. I'm literally just going over some exciting verbs to like use in cover letters, just to keep and like your CV, just to keep it interesting, so you don't repeat words. And then I'll quickly do a quick summary of what we've gone over. And then like I said, it'll be uploaded to the website. You can have a little view. And if you've got any questions, just let me know.
Sure.
Awesome. Oh. Can you still hear me? Just a quick question. Right, good. I'm seeing nods. I'll carry on. Okay, so these are sort of management and leadership. Hang on. I'll change to my laser pointer now. So again, these are just some examples of action verbs that are to do with like management and leadership skills. Next up, we're looking at organizational skills. So again, when you're talking about, I've organized and done X, Y, and Z project, you can say, well, actually, I submitted the data for project text, and or I reviewed and checked all the PowerPoint presentations for the Cystic Fibrosis Trust, etc., etc., etc. So again, these are just words. Again, double check the context makes sense, but so you don't end up repeating yourself and using the same words over and over again. These are action verbs in regards to research skills. So again, analysed is a word that's cropped up before, but again, you can look at reviewed. But again, these are to do with research skills and just make sure they make sense. So you evaluated, you examined, you experimented, you formulated, so on and so forth. Last but not least, these are sort of teaching skills. So, for example, if you've ever like mentored or helped someone like with homework club or something similar like that, you say you instructed and helped them with their maths homework, or for example, you could say that I'm coaching and I'm helping young people look for work. So again, these are sort of your teaching skills, sort of action verbs. So that is the end of today's session. What we've covered today is we've looked at CVs, we've looked at how, we've looked at the basics. What does your CV need to cover? We've looked at the do's and don'ts of when it comes to writing your CV, looked at layout, how best to maximize and make your CV as attractive as possible. We've looked at cover letters. Again, we've looked at the basics, what needs to be on a cover letter. We've looked at some do's and don'ts. We've sort of looked at some examples of where, looked at a job application and sort of picked out what highlighted what needs to sort of be answered in your cover letter. For example, if they're looking for someone with communication skills or team building skills. And then we've looked at application forms, again, some do's and don'ts, what you need to do to make sure that your application is, correct and as good as it can be. And then last but not least, we've just looked at some action verbs, just words to put so you don't end up repeating yourself, and, just keep your CV and cover letters and application forms as fresh as you can. So I look forward to speaking to you all next week. We're going to be looking at the interview next. And next week, we're going to be looking specifically at answering interview questions. So that next week's going to be really, really interesting, looking at sort of the different questions you might get, how to answer them. And we're also going to look at how to answer competency-based questions. And a little task that I use is called STAR, so I'm excited to go into that. But if there is anything specific you'd like covered in these sessions going forward, please just drop Baha or Holly a call or an email even, and I'm sure we can work it in there. And also, as we've looked at CVs and covers letters this week, just a little reminder that you do have a CV service. So again, get in touch with Baha or Holly, drop them an email, and they can get you in touch. Take advantage of it while it's there. Having people look over your CV is something that you'll be asking for the rest of your life, trust me. And if someone's willing to look over it and give their professional advice, that is super, super helpful. So thank you from me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.